Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, if you want to make money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, this episode is for you. James Allen is, if I have any questions, he's the guy I go to. Now, I just came back from my second vacation, and even when I was in the middle of the Bahamas, with no internet, I came back and there was money in my accounts, and money was just keep coming in and coming in just by having evergreen products. So, guys, if you're interested, this episode is for you. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to offer you something. If you buy my brand new book, which is #1 on Amazon right now, for $30, you get a $997 bonus. So stay till the end. And James is also going to give you 3 things you can do today to get your business off the ground. James, my brother, what's up? How are you?
Fantastic, man. Honored to be here.
Oh, I'm so humbled and grateful that we're finally able to do this. My first question is, because if somebody would see the life that you're living now, going on vacations, living the dream, making money 24/7, it always hasn't been sunshine, rainbows, sprinkles, and unicorns. So, what is your definition of resiliency?
My definition of resiliency, it's a great question. I think resiliency is it's just having something that's worth pushing through for. Because, yeah, there's been times where I've literally been in my lowest of lows, and I thought about quitting my business one time specifically. And I should say I was a certified skydiver. I have like 165 jumps under my belt, and I used to jump every single weekend. So it was really a big part of my just hobby that I had. And I just kind of lost passion with it and pursued other things. I love music too. But it's just a lot to kind of commit to, and just focusing on other stuff. But yeah, there was one point where I wanted to join the military and try to go for being a pararescueman, because I just thought that was so cool. Like, I love CrossFit, and I'm like, I think I might be able to do it, but I know it's super intense, the training. And I just was kind of wanting to give up on my business. And this is probably like 2 years into my business of barely making any money. But I just kept doing it because I knew that I wanted that kind of lifestyle. Like, we're talking about going on vacation, still making money, being able to have freedom and not be working full time, like 40 plus hours a week to build a business, and gratefully now I've been able to build a 6-figure business in about 20 hours a week is what it takes me. So, and I can make money consistently, and it's just constantly growing from there. But yeah, I was thinking about joining the military. I talked to my friend who was in the military, and he was like, yeah, I can get you in touch with the right people. Like, are you sure you want to just give up on that thing? And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's just being really hard. And I was sitting there at the computer, and I just asked myself the question of like, what do I really want with my life? And, obviously I admire the guys who go into the military, especially like doing something like pararescue. Those guys are just insane, incredible humans and athletes too. And just people. But it's when I looked at like what I really wanted, I was thinking of going into this other path out of fear, because I couldn't figure out how to make the business side work. So when I asked myself that question of what do I really want, like what would give my life meaning to me? And it's like, I really want to figure out this whole digital product and coaching and, business stuff and live that kind of life. So I decided I'm going to keep pushing through and I'm going to do this. And I think a week or two later, I had my first $10,000 day. And that to me is what resilience is. It's looking at, what do you really want? And are you really just thinking like, I'm scared to do this? And it's about being really honest of what you truly want, which is scary in and of itself. And then just pursuing it no matter how hard it gets, because there's a great saying that says the juice is worth the squeeze. And to me, building this business was, and it's paid off.
I love it. So I'm going to ask you a question that you probably haven't been asked on a business podcast, but who are your top 3 drummers?
My top 3 drummers, man. There's a guy named Kai Smith. Most people don't know him, but he was. Yep. I'm a punk drummer, so you know Kai Smith.
Yep.
Really?
I'm a crappy musician. So, but
Oh, dude.
I'm very well versed in music.
Kai Smith is the man. He's like such a big influence for me. Danny Carey from Tool.
Yeah.
Amazing drummer. And I mean, obviously Travis Barker, gotta love him because that's been a huge influence for me in terms of like the punk stuff. So I'd probably say those top three just to be easy.
That's awesome. And I love talking about music. I like Scooby Doo too, by the way. I just want to let you know that I'm a big Scooby guy. So let me ask you a question. How did you get involved in this whole um, digital marketing? Because even I've only been involved in it now maybe 2 years. Even in the last 3 months, it's evolved. So how did you first get your foot into the door with this whole digital world?
Yeah, I was in construction out of high school. I pretty much went into that. My dad said that I could make money and get college credits. My mom wanted me to go to college, but I was a D student in high school. I barely made through high school because I just didn't care about school. I didn't like it. So I was like, I don't really want to go to more school. So I'm going to go start making money in construction. So I was in the trades. I did plumbing and pipe fitting and that kind of stuff. And, I was doing it for a couple of years and I realized that everything else was pretty cool in my life. I was pretty content with stuff like relationships, friends, hobbies, like my fitness and everything. And my work, which is a huge piece of everybody's life, is the way you make money. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'll just do this construction thing and just make my money. So I kind of thought like, man, I'd really love to just have everything be awesome. I'd love to have the way that I make money be fulfilling for me and exciting and be able to provide for me and the people I love. So I started kind of looking into different options and I was really into personal development. I read the 4 Agreements when I was 17, just because I wanted more confidence and that book just changed my life.
Yeah.
It's still on my little bookshelf back there, but I love that book and I still live by those principles today. And yeah, I was, again, 17. So it's like, I was probably like 18, 19 when I started like really thinking about this. Cause I got into the trades at, I think I was 18 when I got into the trades. And yeah, I was just thinking like, I got to find something that's fun for me. Cause I was just burnt out. I was tired of working all the crazy overtime and everything. And it's like, I just didn't want that to be my life. So I found out about coaching and realized like all these big people like Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield and everything, like I could be somebody like that. I don't necessarily want to be Tony Robbins, but I could be like that. And I started just seeing it from a different lens rather than a consumer. I could be a producer. So I, would go to the bathroom and study what is this coaching thing? And I talked with a coach and they just like blew my mind. I just thought it was so amazing. You can get paid to help people with like personal development in some way. And I found a coaching institute called Life Mastery Institute by Mary Morrissey is her name. Now it's called Brave Thinking Institute, but she was really close with Bob Proctor and they're really good friends. So she's on like Bob Proctor level. But they taught me how to, get this whole business thing up and running and how you could build a business. And it was spiritual life coaching. So that was what made sense to me. And then I finally got the courage to leave construction. I started. And then I realized, that I thought I was going to make 6 figures in the first year because I had everything perfect or whatever. And I was like, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. So I did not make 6 figures in my first year. I made like 20 grand, which I thought was still actually pretty good considering I was like brand spanking new to entrepreneurship. And after a little while, I was coaching people and I realized like I don't really want to do spiritual life coaching. I felt more like a therapist than anything, and nothing against therapy. I love therapy. It's helped me a lot. But I wanted to do something helping people with career because like I mentioned earlier, your career takes up 1/3 of your life, like how you make money. And it's obviously pretty important because we need money. So I was like, I wish that people could really enjoy the work that they do. And I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I mean, I never thought about being an entrepreneur. It's just kind of like, it just happened and it just seemed like the logical path. But I never like dreamed of necessarily being an entrepreneur. So I ended up like changing my niche and I went from spiritual life coaching into performance and productivity because I learned a lot about how to like manage myself and clean up my tech and everything and be efficient with finding documents. And so many people I talked with were just scattered everywhere. So I was helping people be more focused and buy back their time, and people were getting results. And then I learned about digital products and I built like 6 online courses and funnels that didn't make me any money. And then I finally made one, which was a productivity course that made me $200 in my sleep and literally like 0 interaction with anybody. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's huge. And then, you know, a little bit later, I think it was like a week or a couple weeks later, I made like a $300 sale. And then it started happening faster. And then I was like paying my rent every month. And I'm like, wow, this is actually like happening. It was just happening without interacting with any of these people. And then some of my clients, they were coaches or like sales professionals. They started asking if I could help them build something similar because they were like, I want to do that. Can you help me? So I figured, sure, I'll give it a shot, and helped this one woman. She was a fitness coach. She was terrified of being on camera, had no audience or any experience with online business stuff. And she was kind of my guinea pig client. And we did it. She ended up making her program, put it out there, evergreen. Her YouTube channel surpassed mine. I convinced her to start a YouTube channel, which was crazy because she was terrified of the camera. And yeah, our YouTube channel surpassed mine really fast. She was driving traffic and she made like $1,500 in the first week or two of just like getting everything in place. And to her, that was huge. And then it just started happening. And I was like, wow, I can actually like help people with this. So that's how I kind of started Profit Your Knowledge.
Okay, but now, and as you see, I'm writing stuff down because I don't want to miss anything. But something you just mentioned that I think there's a difference between being busy and being productive. You know, because like I come from the world of fitness, I come from the world of bodybuilding, and one of my favorite people of all time was Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates, and he would be in and out of the gym in 40 minutes. And then you had somebody like Flex Wheeler and Rico McClinton, they'd be in the gym for 3 hours. Now he's the Mr. Olympia, they're the runner-ups. So I think there's something to say you can either spend your most valuable asset is time. That's one thing you can't get back. So talk about the difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah, it comes down to one word, in my opinion, which is focus. And when you're really focused on a specific goal, you can cut away anything that isn't related to that goal. It's easier said than done. I still mess this up. But you know what's funny is that one course, because I get this question all the time when I share my story, is those 6 digital products that you made that didn't make any money. How come those didn't sell versus the one that finally did and started working for you in your sleep? I did customer research and I really got to know my audience ahead of time before I even built the program. And I had conversations of like, what's your biggest challenge related to being more productive in your day? What's your biggest like dream? What does being productive in the day really look like to you? And the word focus kept coming up. So the first program I made that really worked was Peak Focus Academy. And I could have came up with a better name, but it worked. That's all that matters. And that's what the whole thing was about. It's about focus. And the less you have to focus on, the greater your focus will be. If you're so spread thin because you're focusing on 5 different things, switching between all these different tasks instead of just being like, this is my one core thing. A great example, Mr. Beast. Think about Mr. Beast, the world's biggest YouTuber in the world. He's huge. All he did, if you look, there's a video actually about like a short documentary about Mr. Beast and his story from when he was a kid. And like he started making videos and nobody watched his videos for years because he was just doing like Minecraft videos. And then one day he decided to just like only focus on YouTube. And that was his entire life, was literally like eat, sleep, YouTube. That's it. He would sit down with friends and just nerd out and overanalyze thumbnails, videos, intros, like everything. And now he's the greatest YouTuber in the world, or the biggest YouTuber in the world. So that is the power of just really focusing and doubling down and then committing and sticking with it. And I think that that's like the big separate. I think we have too many distractions and people don't know what to focus on. How much, like, how do I cut those things away? Or they're not willing to cut away things. And then that's what leads them to being busy rather than productive. I mean, the Olympian, 40 minutes in the gym, he knows which muscle groups matter the most related to, like, sure, he could focus on all these other things, but he's like, if I focus on these specific muscle groups, and this is a rhythm that works for me, then I'll be able to win. And I'm sure that that's how it is. So he got focused on what actually mattered and he pinpointed what actually mattered. And then he focused on developing that consistently. And it doesn't need to take too much time because you can overtrain and all that kind of stuff too, related to bodybuilding. So I think focus is the number one thing.
And, and I don't know where I read this. I've read over 6,000 books. I have 18 going right now, plus 2 audio books. But I love the word focus follow one course until successful. And
Mm.
even Mr. Beast, he focused on YouTube and then he went into having Mr. Beast Burger. He didn't,
Yeah,
in the
Feast
middle
goes all
of
out.
Mr. Beast YouTube, decide, hey, I'm going to start a burger chain. Because I'm a big sports guy, and I've noticed that guys that like his Meta World Peace, he used to play for the Lakers. He was a great player, but then he started wanting to become a rapper, and he started wanting to become a businessman. He was out of the league, just like Shaq. Shaq was one of the most dominant players of all time, but then he wanted to be a rapper. He wanted to be a business owner. Now he's kicking ass anyway. But he stopped being the dominant player, and then he was no longer Shaq Daddy. So, and I think it's important to maintain your focus. Like Tom Brady didn't start TB12 until almost till the end of his career. So is that something that you're talking about? Is following that one course until you're successful?
Oh yeah, I mean that is, but again, easier said than done. And like I know somebody's thinking, okay, but how do you know what to focus on? What is the biggest needle mover for me? Always a huge question I got building out the productivity course, and it still all that stuff still applies to business, because not only do I like to help people make more money, but I want to think like, how can we decrease your work hours? And there's a lot of things we could talk about related to that, but that the way that you find the best way I've been able to find in most simplest way is the one thing. Oh my gosh, this guy literally just talked about it. The One Thing by Gary Keller. That is literally the thing that I always tell people. Just keep it simple. It's one question that you can ask that is going to make everything so much easier. And you say, what is the one thing I can do that by doing that would make everything else easier or totally unnecessary? And that's what Gary Keller calls the focusing question. So I'll say it again. What's the one thing I can do that by doing that would make everything else easier or totally unnecessary? You're the man, Brian. When you ask that question, and not like ask it and then marinate on the question. Go take a walk, go take a drive, go walk in nature, or whatever, you go meditate, and think about it, and or pray on it, whatever it is that you want to do that's going to help you bring up some sort of answer and be open to it. And when you have something coming up consistently and it's lighting you up and you're just feeling this intense inspiration, that's your one thing. And maybe that one thing isn't the groundbreaking thing that's going to change everything, but that one thing could lead you to the groundbreaking one thing. So what's the one thing you can do that by doing that would make everything else easier or totally unnecessary? It's like knocking over the big domino takes care of a bunch of small dominoes.
Okay. So one of the big things that I tell Mike, because I teach clients how to start a purposeful, profitable podcast. And the first thing I tell them is you got to learn to say no. Because I think it's one of the smallest words in the dictionary, but it's one of the most important things. Like for me, if it's not God, family and friends, and business, I'm probably going to say no, because that's going to get me to where I want to go. I want to go to heaven. I want to have great relationships, and I want to have a successful business. If it doesn't have to do with those 3 or 4 things, I'm probably going to say no. So how important is the word no in business and life?
It's everything. I mean, and it's everything too in a certain time. So another thing I do that's been huge from Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, as well, is he talked about big time blocks. And what that does is it gives me intentionality. You're welcome, Paul. When I have big time blocks, it gives me intentionality. So if you see my calendar, it looks insane. And you're like, what? That's a crazy day. But it makes sense to me. So I have wind down and sleep time. And then I have, gym self-care time, which is its own big time block. That's from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. I started a little early today, which is totally fine because I had an awesome podcast with Richard. But then from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., that's my work hours. And when I'm in work hours, I'm in my work hours. I'm not checking my phone. I have only 5 hours to really get stuff done. And I do that 4 days a week. So I have to be intentional, and I'm leveraging a lot of principles at one time by cutting down work hours. But then after that, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., I have a huge time block of family and friends, and that's yellow. And that is where, when I'm in family and friends, just having it on my calendar shows me that I am in this like theme of my day, basically, where I am just going to be hanging out with family and friends, relaxing, and I actually step away from my work. And that gives me boundaries that tells me when to say no to certain things at certain times of the day. And it's also based on my energy levels, because I know from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., I am the most alert and productive. Later in the day, I'm not as alert and productive, but hanging out with family and friends, we're just having a good time, you know, we're relaxing, that kind of stuff. So it's chill. Doesn't require, it's not very demanding, but people know when I'm in my work hours that, oh, James is working. So it's like I have boundaries, and that gives me time to say no to family and friends until I'm in my family and friends window, and vice versa. I can say no to work when I'm in my family and friends window, because that's when I'm there. I'll take care of it tomorrow. Not a big deal, you know? So that's the power of being intentional. It's combining the focusing question, and that's really where it all starts. And then you start to look like, if you ask yourself the focusing question, let's say you find out what your one thing is, the one thing that would make everything else easier or totally unnecessary. Like if I could just do that one thing, I would be miles ahead instead of doing all these miscellaneous small tasks. You write out your one thing at the top of a piece of paper, whiteboard, whatever you want, and then start listing all the things you do on a regular basis to get to that one thing. And you'll be able to look at like different tasks and like be honest with yourself, and then be relentless and ruthless about cutting stuff out. Because you have to look like, is checking my email every 5 minutes really getting me to that goal? It's like, no, you don't check your regular mail every 5 minutes. So don't check your email every 5 minutes, you know? And that's where you set different rules and habits of checking your email like 2 times a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, or just in the evening time. But you have to really like look at everything you're doing and think like, is this actually getting me there? If not, cut it out. And that's the power of saying no.
Well, okay, so let me talk because I had Mr. Lee Steinberg, the greatest sports agent of all time, on my show. And then the next day, I had Mr. David Meltzer on, and him and Warren Moon own a $20 billion company. And together, they actually wrote the movie Jerry Maguire about those two guys. But one thing that David mentioned is that he schedules everything, even if it's fun. He schedules it, but he also schedules time to call his mom. He schedules time to call his daughters, and I believe that either you control your schedule or your schedule controls you. And I think just like the book Atomic Habits talks about, the same thing. If you don't control your schedule, then your schedule is going to control you. And sometimes if you're going to be successful, you have to change your habits. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody has the same amount of time in a day, like Jeff Bezos. And you see that picture of him when he was starting Amazon, and he's sitting in his garage or his little office, and it's just like super janky. And it's like, that's Jeff Bezos, you know, like one of the wealthiest people in this entire world. And he was just sitting there really focused on his goal of building Amazon, because he was saying no to all these other things. But at the same time, I think it's like you can get so lost in just the work that you forget about the family time. And I just saw a really great post. It was a quote from the co-founder, I can't recall his name, of Netflix. But he talked about, for the entire time building Netflix, which is a huge empire, he still would prioritize date nights with his wife at 5 p.m. And that was a non-negotiable for him, because he cared about his relationship. So he could be in the office, he could say no to his wife and be like, no, not this time. But you know, when he does it once, he's probably going to do it again. Then he'll do it again and again and again. And then the relationship starts to dwindle. But what he would do is he would say no to work. At 5 p.m., he was out of the office. He's like, I got to go. Even if he wants to work, or there's more to work, because the truth is that there's always more to get done, and there forever will be. There's always going to be more work to do. But just be intentional about the work you can do today, and think like about the people that you do care about. That's what he would do. And he's he's a super successful guy, you know, but he would still prioritize those date nights. And I think that's so big. And I think too, that putting too much energy into work, it starts to cloud your judgment really. And you don't have enough time to create creativity, to be creative and have creative juices flowing, that you will end up producing worse work. And that's what I was doing when I was working like all the time, night and day, just thinking I was being productive. This is like before my productivity days, when I got really deep into it. I would have to like go back the next day and fix all my work. So it's like, is that really a good use of my time? No, I'd rather condense my work hours, be very intentional about what I'm doing, get the job done, and then the next day I'll pick it up again. Because again, there's always more work to do. There forever will be.
And that's something that I talk about on the show a lot and even in the Bible, it talks about, what good is it for a man to gain the world but lose his soul? But, what good is it for a guy or a girl to have the big house, the big car, the boats, but to be eating at the kitchen table alone? Or lose 50% of your stuff just because you decided not to prioritize your relationship. Like my wife and my bride, she's my everything. She is. And, I had lunch with Pastor T.D. Jakes one time, and he said, hey, if you don't date your wife, another man will. And, so for me, like I said, if it's not God, family, or friends, I'm probably going to say no. So, but now let's talk about relationships real quick, because I found that if a guy starts a business and he doesn't talk to his significant other, that when times get hard and they're $100,000 in debt, because they didn't have that talk the first time, that second talk at the kitchen table is not going to go as well as if they would have talked about it before they started this business. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful for my girlfriend. I was at one point was in $40,000 of debt, and my girlfriend gave me an extra $3,000 to invest in a program, into a coaching program, because I thought it was some paid ads program, was going to make me all this money. Didn't make me any money. Got me leads, but they weren't good leads, and it was terrible. And I had to pay for my AdSense or my ad spend and everything. So I was like every other day, like $500 just leaving my bank account to go to Facebook. And anyway, yeah, she invested that money with her credit card into me, and that alone just spoke volumes of like her commitment to see me succeed, because she didn't have to do that. She could have been like, no, like, I don't want to risk that. But she was like, I believe in you and you're going to make it work. And she invested that. And now I support her. She doesn't have to work. She does, because she likes to just like do something and kind of make her own money so she can buy stuff online and go shopping or take her friends out to lunch or dinner or something. But like, I pay for the major expenses and she's super happy. So it really did pay off. And I just think that, yeah, having those conversations is so important to just be on the same page with your significant other. And, it's like, they have to be on your team and you have to be on theirs. And, yeah, I mean, I think it's huge.
All right. So let me ask you a question. Because my perfect avatar is a 45-year-old male, father, veteran, brand new business owner. So what top pieces of advice would you give to somebody in August of 2024 if they want to start a business? And I think the guy I'm interviewing next, he makes millions of dollars in the trades. But, there's certain people that want to do that. They like the hard work. Me, I'd rather be sitting on a cruise ship in the Bahamas making money, like I'm going in November on another cruise. I'd rather make money sitting at home looking at my phone to see how much money went in my account today. So what would be your top three pieces of advice if somebody's getting out of the military and they want to start a business today?
Yeah. So when you say start a business, I just want to clarify something. There's a ton of different businesses that you can start. There's drop shipping, you know, an online business is what I'm assuming. But you can start like a brick and mortar business. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I want to sell more pillows. Can you help me do that? And that's like e-commerce stuff. I'm like, no, that's not really my thing. I'm not going to claim to be some expert in that. What I'm really good at is taking what you know and turning that into a business. If you have knowledge, you have experience. I just enrolled a client the other day and she's been a hairstylist. Like if you're getting a wedding, you know, you're going to get married, you hire a hairstylist to come in and do the hair, make it look amazing. So she would do that kind of stuff. Weddings was just one piece of it, but she built this successful 6-figure business as a hairstylist. And now her shoulder's getting hurt, her wrists, you know, her neck from doing all this work for so long. She's kind of burnt out. Also, she's just kind of tired of being behind the chair. It's just not as fun for her as it used to be. So she wants to build a new online business teaching other hairstylists how to build their own successful 6-figure hairstyling business because she knows how to do it. And it's like, that is the person that I can help. So if you have something that you're really good at, and you don't have to be some huge success or anything in it, obviously that's great. But that's the kind of business that I think is great to start. I think anybody can start a knowledge-based business. That's why my business is called Profit Your Knowledge. It's taking what you know, what you're experienced at, and turning that into an online income through coaching, digital products, that sort of stuff. You're teaching people how to build a profitable, you know, podcast and community with podcasting because you know how to do it. You have an amazing audience and you've been able to do it yourself. So I learned how to do digital products myself, and that's where it all starts. If you want to get going, you have to find your niche, which is that thing that you've been able to do for yourself. And to really like niche, when I say that, or niche, or whatever you want to say, that alone can stir up a lot of like doubt or insecurity or like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Kind of feelings. But like to keep it really simple, it's about finding a persistent or a big problem that a lot of people face that you're really good at solving. So if you think about things that you've been able to do in your life, for me, for example, I have become a paid musician. I don't get paid a crazy amount, but like I've been paid to play music and I have done it consistently in my band, you know, and I've gotten really good at the drums. So I could teach people how to play the drums. I had to figure out how to do that myself. I figured out how to get a really smoking hot girlfriend who's also super cool and really funny, you know, and that alone took me a long time to figure out, and how to do like dating and that sort of stuff. So I could build a business around that. Building a 6-figure coaching business in under 20 hours a week, I figured out how to do that. So that's something that I can share with people now, you know, and it's like looking at the things that you are really good at that a lot of people struggle with, and finding a specific problem. So if you have been in the trades, let's say a plumber for 10 years, 20 years, and you're like, I want to teach other people how to do plumbing, you could, and there's 2 options you could go with that. You could teach the average Joe how to do their own plumbing in their own home. You'll probably spend less money or a lower investment on the digital product or products or coaching that you build, coaching people how to fix their toilet. It's a thing, I'm sure. The other option is if you've built a successful business as a plumber, people are thinking about doing that all the time. So you could teach people how to build a successful plumbing business because you know how to do it. And then they're making money. Now you can charge significantly more because there's an ROI involved. So it starts by finding that thing that you're really good at and then talking with people and helping them get started. And once you get your niche down, I have videos on my YouTube channel too. The Profit Your Knowledge is the YouTube channel where I talk about your niche and everything. But once you get a good niche that you know is profitable, meaning that people struggle with it and they would rather hire an expert to help them solve it, which would be you, then I would go into coaching, private coaching, talking to people in my network, low-hanging fruit. I wouldn't start building digital products yet, because when you start coaching people privately, you can make more money. You can learn way more about your audience, and you can create a methodology or a systematic approach to doing this thing. With you, for example, with podcasting, I imagine, you probably coached a couple people, even if they were like guinea pigs, or maybe paid you a high investment. And then you're like, okay, like I've taken 3 to 5 people or more through this process and they've gotten good results and everybody's gone through the same process. Great. Now you have a digital product. And then I would start that digital product small and start as a mini course first. that would be priced between $50 to $200 depending on your niche, or a book. That's great too. And because if you start that, you can give your mini course to your clients, your private clients. And that's what I do. That's what I teach my students to do, is you start with coaching people, you create this system, you give them the course, and you say, like, what else do you want from this course? Or if they say something in the conversation, you can go create a lesson and add to it. But you never just want to build a program that you think people want. That's what I did with those 6 programs. Didn't make me any money until I started coaching people, built a program that they actually wanted, and then it started making sales for me consistently. And that's how, once you get the program built, you can turn it evergreen and people will start buying it because it's an actual issue that people care about. And then over time, let's say that $50 product can turn into a $200 product or a $500 product because you just beefed it up over time. So nailing your niche, start coaching people privately, and then when you get a system down, then you can build a digital product. I would say that is a very simple 3-step blueprint that you can get started. I wish I thought about that when I first started.
And this is something I learned from my friends at Operation Veteran Freedom, Christopher Celeste and Liam Weisner. Because my father passed away 3 years ago. And right before he passed, I took this course on digital marketing. And it was I think it was like a 18-week course. And I only took the course because I'm like, listen, guys, I'm just taking this course because I'm calling bullshit. This doesn't work. I don't care what you say. I'm just gonna prove you guys wrong. And then when my dad passed, and I was taking care of my mom for like, a couple weeks, I had money coming in, even though I wasn't working, because I made an evergreen product. And I want to talk about evergreen product because some people, don't really know, like, what is an evergreen product. But I also, I have a product that I put out on Pinterest 5 years ago, and it's still making me money 5 years ago because Pinterest, it never goes away. And I'm still making money on something I put on YouTube 6 years ago. I'm still getting paid affiliate commissions because something 6 years ago. So please tell people what actually an evergreen product is and what it means.
Yeah, so evergreen is like an evergreen tree. It's always green. It's just constantly staying green. And that's kind of the idea here. But there's, building an evergreen funnel takes strategy, takes planning, and it takes having, really a good strategy. Like your podcast is great, or a YouTube channel is great because people can dive deep into you, get to know you more, learn about what you're doing. You can help them. And then they're like, dude, I'm going to check out this guy's program. And then they start to buy it. So it's really just a series of automations, really, that point and introduce a product and invite people to pick it up. And it's always available. Obviously you can, there is a lot of like scarcity tactics where you can do countdown timers and that kind of stuff. But just by having it available to people and, scarcity, the countdown timers they're super effective. But I could just re-opt in and then get the offer again, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Yeah. But even just having like urgency and like why this is so important, why you should do it now, like you hit that to the right person, they start buying the program right away. I mean, with my YouTube channel, I've built a new program and I have a lead magnet. So it's something that you give people in exchange for their email address or contact information. And then when they opt into that, they say download and give you their email. That kickstarts a series of emails or your funnel. And what I do is when people opt in, they go to a thank you page, which is like right after they opt in, they're going to land on a page. And sometimes it's like the video or the thing I'm giving you is a training. And that's in this case what it was. And then inside of that, I'm going to introduce my program, be like, hey, if you've got value from this or it worked for you, check out my program, because I go into way more depth inside of that. And it's like, heck yeah, I'm going to look at that whole thing. And then they consider buying it. But I've literally like created a funnel, launched it on YouTube, announced it in my video that, hey, I got this free thing you can get. It's this downloadable. Just go to mywebsite.com/post is what it was. And then they opt in, they hear about my program, and then they bought. And literally like the day of that video going live, I was making sales straight from it. So that's the power of having an evergreen product. It's just something that's always available and you have a way of getting discovered. But the real magic is when you can couple it with some sort of platform that's always working for you. Like evergreen, what I think about is having a scalable asset that's constantly available and running in the background. It's kind of like a money machine. And that's where YouTube is a huge piece for me. But podcasting is great as well. You know, this podcast, people can listen to this, say, oh, I like James or I like Richard. And then we both have like a funnel in the background where people can learn more about us. They can decide if the program's right for them, and then they can decide to buy. And just going through that process, that's the evergreen funnel.
Okay, so now, and like I said, just over the last 3 to 6 months with AI, everything's changed.
Oh yeah,
but you know,
I'm playing a lot with ChatGPT. It's wild.
I love ChatGPT, but you know, I use it as an assistant. I don't use it as a crutch. But I had one of my friends, Steve D. Sims. I've had him on a couple times, and I just had his son on. And he taught me that sometimes you have to, if everybody's going right, you have to go left. Like when I knew you were coming on the show, I sent you a copy of my book digitally. When we hang up, I'm going to ask for your mailing address because I'm going to be sending you gifts from me, because I do things different. Like I had a friend of mine, his name is Dennis Yu. I had him on the show, and he sent me a pair of socks with my picture on it. So every time I open up my sock drawer, I see my face and I think of Dennis. So I think sometimes even you know, you're in business, sometimes if everybody's doing things one way, you might have to start doing things a different way to get attention, because it's a very busy and loud market out there. So talk about that, as how to differentiate yourself from everybody else, because this podcast is one of millions of podcasts. Why should anybody listen if I'm not going to be any different?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. I hear this all the time. Someone comes to me and they're like, okay, I want to teach people how to have better relationships with their spouse. There's a ton of people teaching that stuff. Why would anybody listen to me? And what I always tell them is going to make you stand out from all those other people, because a lot of it, let's be honest, a lot of the business advice you're hearing the same thing from all these different people. So why would you buy from me versus Richard or versus Alex Hermosi or whoever? You know, you would buy from them because you like them as a person, and the way that they explain things makes sense to you, and you like them as a person because of the stories that they share of their experience with the topic. So nobody really experiences, I mean, we can have similarities, but like we're all on our own path. The way you experience relationships, Richard, is different than I do. And we have different relationships. They're totally different. And you have so many great stories about your relationship in this example. Same thing with your business or your podcast. Just like me, I have great stories. I have stories of hardship and how we work through it and all that kind of stuff. And the stories that we can share are going to, and are strong viewpoints as well. That's what's going to make you different from all the other people, because your backstory alone. I've had people buy from me because I was a spiritual life coach. And then I've had people buy from me because I was also a productivity coach. They say that's what really sold me on you, because you just see things different. You know, you think differently than the other people. And it's just because of my backstory. My journey in and of itself is one thing that has made people buy from me in this crazy busy online world. And I've still been able to build a 6-figure business as a coach. So it's like that. I mean, that alone, it's you living the path and just like doing this thing. Like if you want to be an expert in relationships, people don't even like the word expert. They'd rather be called a coach, because an expert thinks like you know it all, but we all are like, I don't want to say like I know it all, because I don't. And it's like, yeah, there's always more to learn. But your journey on this path is unique. And you sharing your experience and aha moments from that journey is what's going to make you different. And I don't even think about it. I always tell people, like, I'm not at the top of the mountain. I'm not the ultimate guru guy or whatever. I'm just a dude scaling the mountain myself. I'm constantly building my business. You know, the next goal is multi 6 figures and then $1 million for me. So as I'm on this journey, I'm helping the people who aren't quite as far as I am. And those are the people that I can say, hey, watch your step. There's a roadblock coming up, or there's a pothole coming up, or whatever it is. And I think that that's like the real journey. It's like we buy from these people I mean, I buy from people because I just like them as a person, you know, and obviously I know that they're competent, they're good at what they do. So that's the power of having a podcast or a YouTube channel or blog or something and content to showcase your value. But yeah, it's the stories and the experience that you have related to that and how you explain things. It's just going to resonate with different people.
Okay, so for the last 15 minutes or so, let's talk about social proof. And then also, if somebody tells me, well, you're a business coach, but I never see you doing anything except sitting in your basement making videos. Like for me, when we went on our cruise, we just came back from the Bahamas, and we were taking pictures on the Swarovski, whatever they call it, the staircases in the Bahamas. People are like, okay, so he's not just talking about it, he's actually living the life that we're talking about. And for me, you know, I can say that I'm the greatest all I want, which I never do. I'm not that guy. But if Dean Graziosi or John Lee Dumas says Rich is the real deal, that's
Mm.
that's I can say it 1,000 times, but if they say it once, it's so important because social proof is very important. But I don't see a lot of it, especially if you're coaching people. Why don't you have the people you've coached give you shout outs? So talk about
Oh
how
yeah.
important social proof is.
It's incredibly important. Like the busier it has gotten, like even a great example is I'm in a YouTube coaching program and Ed Lawrence is the guy running it. So he runs a film booth, amazing YouTube channel. Actually, crazy thing is he doesn't produce videos on film booth anymore because it was draining him. So he started Creator Booth, which is more for like business owners. But anyway, he's super smart with YouTube and his whole team program is legit, but they're really hitting home on us in the beginning of your video to showcase social proof and act as if everybody landing on the video is a new viewer. Like, don't do little subtle jokes from, oh, in my old videos, I've talked a lot about this. It's like, it's always as if it's a new viewer. Alex Ramosi talks about that too. But showing some sort of proof in the beginning or credibility, like I've been able to do this. And the more proof you can show in the beginning, the more people are going to trust that what you're saying is true. And then they're going to stick out for the rest of your video because they hit home on that. Like I'll find a thumbnail that I like and I'll kind of make my own version. And they'll be like, that's just a claim. Like, show me proof. So then I make a new thumbnail where it's like, I'm literally showing you the income that I've made. It's like, okay, that's like an actual thing, and then that makes it more likely that I'm going to click on it because it's something you've actually done. And then showing your testimonials and like social proof. One other thing that's crazy, I had a guy sign up. I've had multiple people sign up with me and like they've been burned in the past because people make big claims and they don't deliver on them. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, we'll get you to 30 grand a month, in the next 90 days or whatever from ground zero, like nothing happening. And maybe that can happen for some people, but most people probably not. So when they ask that person, that expert, if they can talk to a past client, they say, oh, well, no, we can't do that. It's like, well, you're saying you're getting up these people, all these crazy results and everything, but you won't let me talk to one of them and just ask what their experience was. Like you figure you would be like, yeah, oh my gosh, talk to this person. They're going to praise me and love it. But that person told me that and they were like, would you be okay if I talked to some past clients? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And I sent them a big list of different like results I've gotten with people, no matter how small they've been. I've had some really great people succeed and people not succeed as well. But, over the years, I've accumulated some awesome results for people. And I got them in touch with some of my clients and they literally were on a phone call and then they're sold. They're like, yeah, thank you for letting me talk to them. I'm super pumped about this program. I'm ready to do it. And then they pay. So it's like, it's the relationships you're building and really putting care into people. And unfortunately, it could mean starting for free or for a very low fee in the beginning. I would say just work with people for free. Like if you're a fitness coach and you're telling people you're going to help them lose weight and build muscle at the same time or whatever, go help people for 30 days, lose weight. And then they give you a testimonial in exchange for the time you put in. And a video testimonial or before and after photos. Like that alone, if you get like 5 solid ones, that's it. You will be in a way better position because you can tell people like I've helped this person, and this person. Here are just a few examples. Even if you only have 3, at least just to kind of get started. And then the more you start to develop, the more proof you can share with people. But yeah, it's like back in the day, when Tony Robbins was starting, people could make these claims because people were kind of ignorant to like the whole digital marketing thing. And that's where like, there's that slimy side. I'm not saying Tony Robbins is slimy by any means. He's super legit. But like back in that time, it was just different. Nowadays, anybody can be a creator and everybody knows that. So you have to be able to show the proof in some way. And even if it's small, I don't care. Just start showing it. Start building testimonials in the beginning. And when you work with people, work with them until they get results, because that's going to like promise that you'll work with them until they get a result. And that's going to force you to create a better program. Obviously there's variables. Some people are like, if they're not doing the work, they're not doing the work. It's time to let them go. But if they're genuinely showing up, like I always say, like, I show up for you as much as you show up for yourself. If you stop showing up, okay, is what it is. I'll remind you to keep showing up. But like, if you're showing up to the calls, I'm going to show up to the calls for you, you know, and go above and beyond for you because I want to see you win. And that's how I've been able to get better testimonials that I can showcase on sales pages when people are asking about working with me, etc.
You know, and I love that. Like if you go on one of my Instagram pages, the first 5 pictures are me with Gary V, me with Robert Kiyosaki, Sharon Lecter,
Yeah.
Kurt Angle. And so it's kind of like, and Dean Graziosi, but it's like, I'm not saying it, they're saying it. So,
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's the power of a association. Is like you said, like if Dean Graziosi can say Richard Kaufman is the man, you need to listen to Richard Kaufman. Like all of his people, or even just a video saying that, you'd be like, oh my gosh. And like a video with multiple experts, Les Brown, you know, all these other people saying that you should listen to Richard Kaufman, like, oh my gosh, I should probably listen to this guy because I know who all those people are. So it's the association, and that's a whole nother factor compared to just results.
all right. So, you know, let's talk about, I've talked to Alex and I've talked to Layla Hormozy, and I talked to their former business partners. And something that they talk about, and you mentioned it earlier, I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't want to interrupt the amazing things you were saying, is that the riches are in the niches. Even like Jim Rohn said, you know, if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. And it's like when John Lee Dumas, he actually wrote the whole back cover of my book, and he's my mentor. The first 2 weeks we worked together, and he's a paid mentor, by the way. It wasn't free. But he talked about the first 2 weeks was finding your perfect avatar, finding your niche, and going an inch wide, but going a mile deep on finding your perfect avatar. So can you please talk about that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people, like we're talking about focus, they're not focused on that one person. They're trying to get everybody, and not everybody's going to buy what you're selling.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into avatars, and I touched on this earlier. It's like it's one of the most important things, but also one of the things that we want to push away because there's so much information around it. And what I've learned is business is about solving problems. Starting a coaching business, no different than starting a plumbing business. I mean, except for the work that you're doing, but in the grand scheme of things, like the principles behind it, same issue. My toilet goes out. You know, if I don't know how to fix my toilet and it's water spraying everywhere, call a plumber. Get him over here right now, because like we're just gonna flood the house or whatever, or we have to be able to use the bathroom. You know, it's a bleeding neck issue if you don't know how to solve something very important to you, and that's where you bring in the expert. So if you can find a bleeding neck issue, which is something that's keeping you up at night or keeping somebody up at night for a group of people, and then you get good at solving that problem, you will never run out of clients. And, you know, keep it that simple. You can broaden over time. With me and my coaching niche, with what I'm doing now, I had to learn, you know, obviously I put time into it because my bleeding neck issue for me personally that would keep me up at night was I want to build a 6-figure business in 20 hours a week. I don't want to be working all the time. I want to do this like part-time, but still make a full-time income. And that has been my dream since I started like construction years ago. And now I get to do it, you know, but I had to figure out through all of the jump through hoops, you know, go through the fire, get upset and cry even, and just like put the blood, sweat, and tears into figuring out how to do that. So when I figured out how to do it and do it consistently, then I'm able to tell people like, okay, I can help you build a 6-figure business, because a lot of people like what I like to do is inside of like my course, I have 10 magic questions. I'm not going to go into them just because it's like a lot, but I like to think of a avatar journey that the typical person that you can help is going on. So for me, for example, it's literally my journey. I found out about coaching. I said, that sounds amazing. You can get paid to talk with people and work from home and travel the world and like work from anywhere. That sounds incredible. And that's usually what happens with people. So I got my certifications. I paid for trainings. I went through the whole thing and I said, okay, all right, let's do this. I'm going to get onto the field and make all this money. It's going to be incredible. And I get boots on the ground. And I realized this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. How come I'm not making money? Why isn't this working? Oh, I have to learn business, marketing, sales, all this other stuff. And this is hard for me. That's where I come in because I had to learn all that stuff. So that's my bleeding neck issue because I can't tell you how many people are starting to become coaches or they know they have something great, but don't know how to get it out there, whether they have 10, 20, 30 years of experience under their belt. And they're like, oh, I wish I could do this online, but I have no clue how to make that work. I don't get the marketing, the sales, anything. And that's where I'm at. So that's my bleeding neck issue that I've gotten way better at solving. And I continuously get better and better at solving it. And that's what you have to find when it comes to a niche. What's that thing? And it's great to look at your past experience because obviously, like we talked about, results. Being an expert means you speak from experience. So what are the bleeding neck issues that you've had to figure out yourself? For me, like paying off 40 grand of debt when I felt like I had nothing that I could do. I was just like in this hole. And obviously people are in more debt than that too. But maybe you had like $100,000 of student loan debts and you were able to pay yourself out of it. How did you do it? You know, that is a bleeding neck issue that can be a niche. Because think about how many people share that same experience or something similar. And now you're sharing your story of how you've been able to get out of it yourself and the strategies that you use, whether it's really dialing in your finances, like did you start a business or did you just do it working like a 9-to-5? Because either way, that's impressive. And then you can help those people get the same result that you did because you've actually done it. And that's when you have a niche. So you know it's really profitable. Again, when it's something that you're really good at, it's a problem you've genuinely solved for yourself. And a lot of people are having that bleeding neck issue and they're wanting to figure out how to do it themselves, but they don't know how. That's when you have a bullseye business.
Okay, so then last question is, say my name is Larry. Say I'm 56, 57 years old. I'm a mechanic. I'm a great mechanic. I live in $1 million home. I have a yacht. But my body's breaking down and I can barely even get out of bed anymore. If he wanted to work with you, what would be some of the steps that they would need to do to work with you to get them to they don't have to, they can spend the time on the boat and not just be under the car.
Yeah. So Larry, if he's working with me, if he signed up with me, the first thing that we always do is customer research. We want to find what is this pain point? I think it's pretty clear already, but we're still going to talk with people. And I have customer research like documents or one document that I use, and it breaks up what are the big pains that people have related to this, what are the big dreams they have, and then what are the things getting in the way. So it's like, where are they at? Where do they want to be? Why haven't they gotten there yet? And that's like a very simple way of thinking about it. But Larry would have to just start talking with people. And through that, that's where I mentioned earlier, having conversations with those people. Like, where are those people who would want to achieve the success that Larry's gotten, who wouldn't want to have the mansion and the other stuff, or like the yacht, you know? And that's where he would have to find those people and start just talking with them, consulting them on how to do it. The thing is, like, I have another client named Rob. He is a freelance filmmaker. He's built a very great business. Well, I guess it's kind of a business, but he has built a great income for himself. And he started, investing his money with the S&P 500 and different investments. And he was making a ton of money in a very short period of time. And he's coaching a couple people right now who are new as freelance filmmakers. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, Rob, imagine if you knew everything that you know now, but you were 28 years old and you started doing this stuff right away. He'd be like, dude, I would be a multimillionaire right now, later in my life. So that's what he does. And his niche is teaching freelance filmmakers how to build wealth in their career and retire early. That's what we do. And it's very specific to freelance filmmakers because that's its own industry. It has its own lingo, all that kind of stuff. So for Larry, You got to just start talking with people that you can help, and more importantly, inviting them to help them. Maybe have a couple guinea pig clients where it's free for 30 days. It's like, hey, I'll get your business all set up and help you. Or someone who already has a business and they're stuck and they're like, Larry, I wish I could make millions of dollars like you and have the yacht. And he's like, okay, well, let me look at your business. Obviously, you're not making that money because you're doing this, this, and this. You have the wrong people. You don't have any employees or whatever it is. But they're like, I don't know how to deal with that because they're too wrapped up in their problem. But Larry, you're not wrapped up in the problem except for, that your shoulder's hurting or whatever. And that's the power of being an expert and having experience. Like Rob, for example, he doesn't see the problem like they do. Because when we're stuck in our problem, oh, my relationship sucks, or my health is out of whack, or I'm overweight, or my business isn't making money, that's what we start thinking about, and we manifest more of those things in our life, or we stay stuck. But that's the power of having a coach like you with John Lee Dumas or me with Ed. They can see the things that we can't. So getting a coach obviously is a great step, but you can be that coach too. And that's why every coach or expert should have a coach of some kind, because there's a great saying that says it's hard to see the big picture when you're the one in the frame. And that's the problem that people are having. They're stuck in their problem. They can't see a solution. But you, not experiencing the problem because you've been through all that, can see the solution plain as day. And that's where, we're in a coaching business despite being successful. And we're thinking, why didn't I think of that? Because we're too wrapped up in the problem. So that's the power of it, Larry. And then after you start working with some people, it doesn't have to be a crazy amount, could be like 3 to 5 people and they're getting good results. Then you can start building a digital product. And that's where I help people do all the tech side of things. Cause I'm sure Larry, 57, 58 years old, he's probably like, I suck at tech. Yeah. So that's where I come in, and I help them build all of it, the program, the sales page, like the emails, and I link everything together. And I like to teach them how to do it. But, I have clients who are in their 60s, and I've helped them. So,
how do we get in touch with you if we want to be coached by you, and how do we get involved in your universe?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is obviously great. You can always just Google Profit Your Knowledge and I will pop up my podcast, my YouTube channel, that kind of stuff. But if you do want to get a head start and learn more about creating digital products, I have a free masterclass, and it's how to earn $2,000 a month from digital products without complicated tech. I'll show you the simple way to do it. And it's a free training. It's my gift to you. It'll announce that I have a program you can check out if you want, but regardless, it's jam-packed with a ton of information. It'll kind of get your wheels turning on how it all works. And you'll be on my email list, so you can always just message me, send me an email, reply back to any one of my emails if you're interested, and we can sit down and chat. Just see if it's a good fit, really. If, we mesh, that's probably the biggest thing. But to get the masterclass, just go to profityourknowledge.com/masterclass. Very simple.
And James, brother, I just want to say, this has been amazing. I just want to say thank you. Man. I'm truly humbled and grateful that we finally got together, and hopefully we can build a generational relationship from this point forward. So guys, make sure that you check James out on all the social media. His stuff is fire. I just want to let you guys know that. And guys, like I mentioned, if you pick up my new book, it's actually, the back cover is written by Mr. John Lee Dumas. And he's the one that taught me everything I know. If you pick up the autographed copy for $30, you're going to get over $1,000 in bonuses, including being on this show, being promoted to 35 different channels, to up to 400,000 people for $30. You can't go wrong. And if you just want the ebook, it's available for $2. You can get it on Amazon, and you could get the ebook by breakfast and have a podcast released by dinner. So for $2 or $30, you can't go wrong. But hey, I'll teach you the way to do it the right way. And guys, I just want to say, as you know, I'm a spiritual guy. I love my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Like Joel Osteen said, that if every morning we wake up, we can either be a victim of our past or a victim or a victor of our present and our future. And if you guys listen to this show, you guys are victors of your present and your future. And I want to thank you guys for always showing up. James, my brother, I'm so grateful and humbled. Hopefully we can collaborate in the future and do something amazing stuff together.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for having me.
I love it. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of the summer.